Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I shot the scene using the camera sequencer and teach you about it along the way. So let's check it out. If I taught you how I shot this entire scene, it would be over an hour-long tutorial, so I'm going to be teaching you the scenes that provide the most value and will give you all the information you need to shoot this or create something like this totally on your own. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so right now you have the blank scene. I have no camera and really nothing else. So the only thing I have set up is the camera. If you're coming to me and you have no idea how to use this at all, to create a camera, you would be going up to this little box, go down to cinematic and do Cine Camera Actor. Once it pops in scene, you'll see it's just pointing in a random direction. You can go to the camera, click on it, right click, and then go down to, well, in this case, I'm piloting it, go down to Pilot Camera, and you'll be able to move it around into the scene. Now, to get started, it'd be bad to have a camera sequencer tutorial without teaching you about the camera. So this is the camera actor, and it is essentially a digital camera in the sense that it is put into a digital world. But you can design it to be really whatever you want. So the first thing up is film back. Film back is basically a bunch of different ways in which sensors collect data on cameras. The most popular would be either 9:16 film or digital film, and then DSLR. These are shot on different film formats, which basically change the way it's cropped. So in this case, Super 35 will crop in, and that's Super 35. Don't mean to drop that. So really, you can have fun with this by creating really whatever type of camera you want. Here's your IMAX of my scene, which would actually probably be good for a thumbnail. And then, 35 millimeter Academy. There's a bunch of ways you can handle this. In this particular tutorial, I personally like using DSLR the most, mainly because I used to shoot on a DSLR and it feels more native to me. The next one up is lens settings, which is very popular. And again, it's just going to help you design your lens. You don't necessarily need to listen to this as much. You can always just do universal zoom because, again, it's a digital camera, which means you can make it whatever you want. So going further down, these are the focus settings. You can either manual or track. Manual being you pull it yourself. Tracking means you can put it to an object to track. But in general, just playing around with these settings are very straightforward. Crop is how you want it cropped. And then we got current focal length. So I have universal zoom. Current focal length is 30. If I change this to 24, you'll see it get wider. If I change it to 50, you'll see it zoom in. So that is your digital camera and your focal length. And you can even change your aperture too to like say 2.8. You'll see now there's blurring down here because it's focused out here. These are all different settings that are going to help you design your camera. And then once you're in camera sequencer, you can use these settings to keyframe so they can actually change while you're shooting. So that is going to be the main gist of the camera and most of what we're going to be using. And then the last bit would be down in lens, where you can change different lens settings. So in this case, you can change the depth of field, the bloom. Bloom is when sun hits the lens, how much does it create basically like a halo effect. Exposure is sensitivity to light. And then, you have chromatic aberration, dirt mask, camera, local exposure, lens flares, image effects, and depth of field. These are a lot of fun settings to use with your camera because if you switch them up, as you're going to see throughout this tutorial, you can create really cool different effects. And then really this is all for color down here. And I think that's all we'll be going over today and you seeing me use. So now that you understand the camera, let's get into the actual sequencer. So to make a sequencer, you're going to go over to this little clapper board, click on it, and go to Add Level Sequence. You can make this, you can name this whatever you want. In my case, I'm going to do ls underscore scene 1. Click on content, save, and now I have a sequence. So let's pull the sequence all the way up. There's definitely faster ways of doing this that I am not doing right now. If you want a faster way of doing that, since you just saw that, you'll see me doing it in the future. The easiest way to do it is actually just right click, go down to move to, and then you can literally just pick the folder. Much easier than dragging and going up 90 or 100 different objects in your scene. Okay, so now that we have the sequencer, what we want to do first is add in the camera. So go over to track, go to actor to camera sequencer, go down to Cinema Camera Actor, and voila, you have it in your scene. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just give a brief explanation of this top bar of everything we're going to be going over today. This is a save button. This is going to help you find the viewed sequence asset in the content browser. If you click on it, it brings you over to it. And then this is your clapperboard. This is how you're going to render your scene. If you click on these two buttons and you just opened your project, you most likely have movie render queue not existing on your scene. It'll just say movie scene capture legacy. I will teach you how to fix that in a second. This is for director blueprints. We're not going to be going over that today. Separate actions here: trims, translate, export, save, all that different stuff. View options as well. You can select nodes, stuff like that, to help you see different scenes in this box right here. And then quickly gliding over, you have this, which is snapping, which helps you snap objects to each other. It's a good thing to have. See, right now it's not snapping, but if I go like this, it'll snap to it, makes it much easier. And then lastly, this is the frame rate of your scene. If you don't want it to be in 30 frames per second, you can switch it to 24, 25, 3.976, 15, 12, really whatever you want it to be on. So you can have fun with that. And then lastly, this is the graph, which I will be showing you a little later on. Okay, so now that that's done, the first thing we want to do is give you movie render queue before we get started so it's not as annoying. Most people should probably know how to do this since it's mentioned a lot, but if you don't, go over to edit, go down to plugins, and then just type in movie render queue, and then make sure this is checked. If it's not checked, check it. Right down here, you'll see a restart button. Click on that, restart it, the engine, open it back up, and when you click on this, you'll have movie render queue right here. Okay, so now let's get into actual moving the camera. So the first thing, if you've ever used an editing software, this is called keyframing. Keyframing means if you set it to transform is basically moving the camera. So if I set transform, so now it is keyframe. So at this frame, the camera is in this position. But if I move the playhead forward and then move the camera forward and then click the keyframe again, now this scene, it was where it was before. This scene is where it is now, and all in between is it changing position. So this is how you're going to get movement. Once you understand this concept, a lot of doors open up and you can have a lot of fun. So for this particular scene, this is going to be my intro, and I just want it to go from right here to slowly maybe right here, and then look up into like the sky. So let's go all the way down here, and then let's move the camera forward. Maybe even lower, actually. Also, if you're moving too quickly through your scene, up here, this is the camera speed. You'll see it's on 1. But a quick little trick that helps you move forward quickly is if I right-click, hold the right-click, and then scroll down. If you look up in the corner, it's now 0.1. If I do the same thing and scroll up, it is now 1.8. It's a very fast way to move around quickly in your scene and kind of gauge things well. All right, so now that I just messed up my camera, if this is a good example as well, if you mess up your camera and you're like a little like, oh, how do I get back where I was? Just go back to your scene. Just move the playhead and it's gonna lock where it was. So now we're back in the beginning, and I know we want to go to the very end, move forward slightly, maybe a little lower. I'm gonna slow down the camera a bit. There we go. I think right there is good. And then I can speed up the camera a tad. We want to look up into the sky, and I'll keyframe it. So now you'll see it's moving from A to B, which is really cool. And if you want to elongate your scene, you can press plus and minus, or I guess in this sense it's equals and minus, if you see up here, and it will zoom in and out of your timeline. And once you're done doing that, you can pull these little red tabs. This is the export out, which means nothing past this tab would get exported. And then you can now move your scene itself. And then lastly, you can go down here or right here to the Cine Camera Actor and move this forward as well. So now it will drag the keyframes with you. And now it's moving from point A to point B much slower because I basically increased the time between the movement. Cool. Now that's a nice little intro shot. But if you notice, you're going to see that it starts slow, speeds up, and then slows again when it comes to the movement. And this is where the graph comes in. So now if I click on this and I click on the graph, or actually if I click on the Cine Camera Actor, go down and transform, this is our graph. And you will see that it starts slow and then starts to move quickly and then slows down again. This vertical line being vertical means the movement is less. So if you go all the way down here and maybe increase the movement, you're going to now see it go quickly and then slow. So let's see. Also, it totally changes the position of it as well. So this is how the graph can slowly affect things. And you can make nice little fine tunings. Let's go back to how it was before. We can make nice little fine tunings on how we want it to work. So now if I make it dip below, now see what happens. You're going to see it slow and even reverse. So let's just close you out. Let's watch. See how it goes backwards because it dipped below the original position. And then now it's shooting forwards. So I'm showing you very drastic ways in which this is affected. But if you make small little adjustments, like maybe just increase it a tad, you'll now see that it'll start faster in the beginning and then slow to the end. Because it's doing most of the movement up front. So that's kind of how you can make little tweaks on how this works. And then if you want to make major tweaks to quickly get through this process and kind of use, like, I guess I would say pre-made versions, you can actually left click, highlight everything, and then right click. And right here you have all your different, key interpolations. So these all do different things, and you can look into them if you want. But the easiest to remember for me is just the cubic auto is when it basically slows in the beginning, speeds up, slows down again. Linear will be even throughout the entire, and then constant basically means that no matter what keyframe you put in, it's not moving. So if I just put constant free frames, it just means it's a constant camera. It's not moving. And then if I go over here and make linear keyframes, you'll see that it is moving evenly throughout the entire scene. And then you can even go so far as maybe you want it linear at the end, but then, where are we? Let me highlight one more time. And then cubic in the beginning. Now it will go slowly, and then once it reaches its top speed, it will stay at that top speed all the way throughout, and then connect to the linear. Perfect. So now that that's done, I do want to go back here and explain what's going on. You can keyframe all these different things, and these are only small sets of what you want to keyframe. So scale of the actual camera, rotation of the camera, location of the camera, which has to do with what we just did. And then you have the manual focus distance, which basically means you can change the distance and keyframe it if you're going to move the camera. Focal length as well. And then you have the aperture. So these are all the simple things that come with the camera. And then if you want to add more things to keyframe, you click right here. And pretty much everything here is something you can keyframe. We will be using this a little bit later on, but just wanted to show you right now as an idea of what you could be using when it comes to adding things to your scene to keyframe. So now that we have the scene, the one thing that I would like to do is add in a camera shake. So let me teach you how to add in camera shake. So I'm going to do Control Space, right click, go to Blueprint Class, go to All Classes. I'm going to type in Shake, and then I'm going to go down to Camera Shake Base and select. And then we're going to name this Camera Shake V1. And then let's delete the space because Unreal doesn't like spaces. Open it up. Looks like this, which isn't helpful. Close it. Open it up one more time. And now you have this, which is much more helpful. So let's actually, I'll just make this giant. Let's go over to root shake pattern and make this Perlin noise. And then drop down and then just keep dropping all these down. You don't really need every single one of these down, but if you want to play around with each, you have to. Okay, so this is location rotation, which is going to affect how the camera moves. The first thing you want to do when you open this up, however, is go down to timing under duration, click on this and make it 0. If you had it 1, it would only play for 1 second, which is super annoying. If you put it on 0, you can make it infinite. Okay, so now this is the multiplier, the frequency. Amplitude means how much it's doing it, like the greater and less than of movement, and then the frequency is how often it's going to occur. You can make these low to start if you wish, which is what I'm going to start doing, but you'll see that you kind of just key it in based on how you feel. So play around with it. Don't feel like what I'm telling you is what it has to be at. So compile, save, close. So now we've made our camera shake, and if we want to add it, we can go over here to Cine Camera Actor, click on it, go over to camera shake, and you'll see the camera shake you just created right here. Click on that, and it'll be this yellow bar. Now, if it was only 1 second, it would only play for 1 second, but it's on infinite, which means you can grab either side and pull it out. So now, when I go back, this is our camera shake, which is on the verge of making me feel seasick. So let's open it back up. And let's reduce it even further. Let's do 0.5 and 0.5 on both and see what that gives us. Much more mellow and gentle. Perfect. So that is what I'm looking for from my scene. And then the next thing you can do now is actually add some bloom. So let's go over to the camera, click right here. Let's do post-processing, and let's actually do lens flare. So add that, and let's do bokeh. So now you have the bokeh size, which is going to be affected. And then let's actually go back in, click on post-process settings, and let's also do intensity. So right now you're already seeing it pop in. If I go down to intensity and make it really intense, you'll see it is very intense. So let's go to 1 to start. But let's say we don't want the lens flare throughout the entire scene. What if we just want the lens flare towards the end? So you can now click right here and right here. So we keyframe it. And then let's say right here. Oh, right here and here, it goes down to 0. So now it'll start off not existing and then come in as we go. I liked how slow that was. I would just say, maybe let's do 1. That's a little weird. It's a little fairyish. I think the 3 works. So let's keep it at 3. And then we can exit out of U. And then the intensity, I think, can always just be a 0.75. 0.5. Yeah, I want it to be subtle. So now let's play. And then now you'll see it slowly flicker in to the end of the scene. Perfect. So that's what we want. So now that that's done, we're basically going to do the exact same thing again. So I can close this down. That scene has been shot. Let me go over to camera or cinematic. So we'll click on this little green box with the box with the green plus sign. Go over to cinematic and then do Cinecamera Actor. So now we have another camera in our scene. I'm going to right click on it, go to Move To, and click Cinematics. So everything is where it should be. So now let's move on to our next scene. So to do that, let's just go back and do the same thing again. We'll do Cinematic, Cinecamera Actor. Pull that into Cinematics, and then go over here to Add Little Sequence. We'll do ls underscore scene 3. Now with this third scene, I'm going to go out to the beach. So let's go to track and camera sequencer. You're in. And then let's go over to here. So let's make sure you are in focus. So if you go back to the camera, we can go back down to crop settings, tracking. Actor to track is this right here. Perfect. We like the blurred background, but it's a little too strong, so we can go over here and make it maybe 3.5. Let's do 8 actually. Let's just do 4. That's enough bokeh for me, honestly. Maybe 3.5. 3.5. Yeah, that works. Okay, so right here, I know we want to start right here. Let's do that. And then over here, we can move forward. To here. Let's see how that looks. Perfect. So this is another one where I think we can add bloom. So if you want, we can go over here, go to post-processing, go down to lens flare. Let's do intensity. And this is far too intense. So let's just actually keep it down to 0.2. 0.01. It won't even let me do 0.01. Oh, well, nice. Let's do 0.05. Even that's actually pretty strong. But it actually does look really beautiful. So let's go with that. Intensity setting is going to start from all the way up. I like that. Perfect. And then let's go over to camera shake, add that in. And then let's play one more time. And now you'll see that sometimes camera shake isn't really what you want. So we can go out of here. We can right click U, duplicate, and go all the way down. Name UV2, already did it for me. Click on it, and now we can change this a little more. So let's make it 0.65. 0.65. You can always name your camera shakes different things so you can remember what they are. I personally remember, but it never hurts. So I'm going to exit out, go over to camera shake again, and you have the V2. So let's add the V2 and see how that works. I like it, but I would actually say it just needs a little more time to get to where it's going. So again, you can just drag out the keyframes and everything, or you can go back, go to your main camera component and drag that out. Looks like it carried some things, not all things. So go figure, you know? All right, so there we go. Okay, so now that we're done shooting the scene, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create a master sequence. So in a prior tutorial, I actually taught the basics, and in those basics, I taught you how to use Sequencer by only using one sequence track. I did this because when you're making larger films, it's really nice to know how to use it in one sequence, and then you can kind of build out shots and add those into other sequences. Those other sequences are called master sequences. So to create those, all you need to do is go up here to the clapperboard, go to add level sequence. Let's call this ls_master. Yes and yes. You're not gonna get those notices. It's just letting me know I already made it. I'm gonna click on it and go to move to cinematics. So it's up where it should be. And then all you need to do is go over to track and go to shot track. Once you have a shot track, you can actually click on this little plus sign and add the other tracks to your master. So to do that, let's do ls scene 1, and we can click minus to get out, and you'll see that that shot is now on our track. Now what you can do is add multiples, and you can stack them and play around with them as needed. So now you have an entire scene that is on one track. But you're probably asking yourself, why can you not see it? That's actually a quick fix. Click on the camera right here, and it will lock your viewport to the scene. So click, and voila. You now have your scene all in one sequence. So this is very helpful, as you can see, because it lets you not only shoot the track right away, but then put the track together and let you really iterate quickly. So this should be a lot of fun to use once you understand it. But the easiest thing to get is that you can trim your scene if needed, and you can make things smaller. You can layer over, and now you can even mesh these scenes together quickly by layering them the way they were just layered. And then you can even trim down different scenes. So layering it over will mesh it. And then you can trim down your scene and speed it up too. So this is going to let you play around with your scenes pretty quickly, make changes without actually having to worry about the source of the material and playing around with the different keyframes and stuff like that. So now that that is done, let's go back to it being all fully preserved. Let's add in scene 2 and then click on it again, scene 3. There we go. And then we can keep moving with our scene shots. Okay, perfect. Well, just to end off this tutorial, I'm going to teach you one last thing, which is how to create a dirt mask. So let's skip over to that. Let's actually do a dirt mask and some bloom for this one. So I'm going to go over to track. Let's do post-process settings. Again, we got dirt mask, intensity, and then go back to the exact same area, post-process settings, and let's do bloom, intensity. So if I go over here to intensity on the bloom, you know it's bloom because it says dirt mask. We can increase it, and there's your bloom, which is a lot. So let's see how that looks. It's hurting my eyes more than anything. So we can go back to maybe 0.5. That is the magnetic focusing distance, which is not helping me. So let's go back to 0.5. That seems like a good amount of bloom. 200. And now we got a dirt mask going. If it decides, with the dirt mask, let's go back over to, you might see this issue where you bring in the dirt mask and you're like, it's not working. The quick thing is what we did already. So let's go back over to lens, dirt mask, and then we just need to add the texture. So let's do dirt, screen dirt, done. Texture's added, now you see it in here. And then with bloom, you can change other settings over here. You want standard, you can do convolution bloom, which now all of a sudden looks much cooler. I actually really like that. It is a little strong though, yeah? What's standard? So that's standard bloom. Let's see how standard looks. Something to be said about something not going too far, but maybe I can do convolution and do 0.25, 0.05. How does that look? Okay, perfect. I think that works for me. Thank you guys so much for coming to watch this tutorial. Hopefully you learned a lot. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.